Welcome in for today's full-length yin and restorative practice to support your two most lower chakras, Muladhara, the root chakra, and Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra. You'll need a couple tools and props to support your body and your practice today. So please make sure you have, before beginning, of course, your mat or a comfortable surface to practice on, a bolster. If you don't have a bolster at home, a pillow works just as well. You can even grab a couple pillows if you like a little more cushion. 2 blocks or some nice, hardy, heavy books. You can grab a whole stack of books to support you. And also a blanket. Again, if you know that your body and your practice likes a little bit of extra cushion, particularly for the joints, the lower body for today's practice, knees or ankles, then go ahead and grab a couple blankets to support your practice today. We're going to keep it really low and really slow since we're working with those lower 2 chakras. So please make sure you have everything you need to be comfortable and cushioned. Feel free to pause here if you need to gather some supplies and start on up in just a moment when you're ready. Okay, so let's begin. Today's practice will begin in Seiza. So you can swing your feet around underneath you. Rest your sits bones back onto your heels. And come up nice and tall. So I'm going to give several options for support and modification throughout the practice. And please know that certainly if I forget to mention some way you can accommodate or support yourself well, please grab whatever you need for your practice at home. So one great way you can support ankles or knees if you are not feeling this pose that much is to take a folded blanket and tuck it right behind the knees for a little bit more elevation. You can also sit up onto a block or two. So let's pause here. Sit back onto your heels. You can rest your palms face down on your thighs. And allow your eyes to softly close. And your breath to be soft and steady, but unforced. No need to move into a controlled manner of breath. We're just stepping into a space that's ready for observation, for witness. Right, for non-judgment. This is really the challenge. The meditative quality of the yin practice is really being able to observe without judgment, like we are doing in our practice of meditation. So be soft here and allow. And notice all of the parts of you that are making contact with the earth. We're going to really dive first into the root chakra, Muladhara, which in the physical body, as review, will be encompassing the feet, the ankles, the lower legs, even the knees, the strengths of the upper legs, the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the very, very base of the spine, the coccyx, so low body. And remember, it's tied to element earth. So we're really going to connect deeply with that earth connection. That earth element. So notice the tops of your feet, the shins, your knees, all the parts of you touching the earth. You can visualize yourself really rooted, really heavy, really strong, really sturdy, grounded. And breathe. And the root chakra is represented by the color red. So if you're finding that your mind wants to wander or dance around a bit as we begin the practice, perhaps hone in on a color red, the one that first pops out to you as the color of your root chakra. Maybe notice if it's a little brighter, more crimson, or maybe it's like a rusty red or muddy red or more pinkish. Take 5 more breaths here. Rooted, grounded, red, earth. And then slowly rock your weight forward. So if you're on any sort of cushion, support, blanket, bolster, whatever it may be, blocks, Go ahead and slide that off to the side. And the first few postures, we're really going to invite in an awakening for the feet and the ankles. So areas of the body that we don't necessarily always address in a yoga practice. So toe squat. Go ahead and lean your weight forward. Tuck your toes underneath you at the back and sit back onto your heels. We'll be here just about a minute and a half. And so remember, you can also always prop your sits bones up on a block. And for those less accustomed to a yin practice, you'll notice that in yin there's an edge, so there's an intensity and sensation, which makes the meditation very challenging. So you learn to sit with what is. So it might be quite intense, but see if you can tap into a place of stillness, of receptivity. As we work to wake up and charge the feet, the home of the root chakra, this base that really gives us a sense of home. It's the point from where we land on this earth, our community, our family, our clan, our group, our culture. Take 3 last unhurried breaths. And then slowly lean your weight forward. You can untuck your toes, maybe take some taps onto the tops of your feet as a transition, and then lean back to sit upon your heels again. So that was about a minute and a half. We'll expand on that and take about 2 full minutes in the next posture, ankle stretch. So there's a couple options here. First is you can press your hands into the earth or right onto blocks and float your knees up and off the earth. Or the variation I like best is a supported ankle stretch. So you can take a folded blanket and slide it under your knees, or even your bolster or your pillow that you have at home. So this one is going to get along the front line of your shin, the tops of your feet into your ankles, these areas we're not really that accustomed to getting into or feeling much sensation in during yoga practice. So we'll be here for 2 full minutes this time around. Make the adjustments you need. You can kind of settle and resettle. And then once you find comfort, either rest your hands atop your thighs or alongside your hips with fingertips or palms to the earth. Settle into and smooth out your breath. And remember, the challenge of yin is being witness to everything, to all of the sensation, to the full experience without judgment, open to all that is. You have just over 1 minute left here. Root chakra is where fear resides when out of balance. So we need nurturing here at the very base of our energetic system to create a sense of safety and security in our energy body and our emotional body. So you may notice here for the last few breaths any sort of relationship to fear or anxiety that's rearing its head in your life at this moment. All good reasons to nurture your root chakra. Take time to reconnect with that earth element for sturdiness and steadiness. Take 1 more unhurried breath. And then go ahead and slowly come out. We want to ease out of the yin posture since we have really long holds. We're starting with a few little bit shorter holds at the beginning of the class, but really ease out. And then once again, you can rock your weight forward. Maybe take some taps onto the tops of your feet to work out any stiffness in the ankles. And we'll slide right into our next pose. I really love this one for root and sacral chakra. It gets into all the physical areas and also it really gets us close onto the ground. So go ahead and slide your right knee all the way up and land it down between both hands. So we're taking the yin variation of pigeon, swan pose. Your front knee can be bent at quite a deep angle. You can keep your toes tucked under behind you. Prop the knee up and slide your left hip back. So if this seems like it's not happening in your practice today, please take a block, books, or blanket underneath your right hip. Once you feel steady, go ahead and walk your hands out toward the front for sleeping swan. We'll take 4 full minutes on this first side. You might keep the gaze lifted and rest onto elbows or forearms. You might rest your head low so there's a little bit of traction for your neck spine. Of course, if your body feels prepared for it, you can come all the way down to the earth. Even rest your forehead onto the mat. And this is going to be a very luscious expression for supporting root and sacral chakras. As we get into the hip tissue, we're working our way up into Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra, represented by the color orange, governing our sexual organs and glands, our hips, our pelvis, low back, sacrum, lumbar. And so once we have the needs of the root chakra met and we have a sense of safety and security, we can really begin to draw our awareness toward the juiciness of life. We can tap more into our sense of play and of creativity and of intimacy once we have all of our basic safety needs met. So this is a really beautiful jumping off point directly from the root chakra. So we're about halfway through on this first side. If you notice your mind wandering a little, remember there's lots of anchors. You might choose perhaps that beautiful orange color of the sacral chakra this time around, or if the red of the root chakra really resonated with you, and you can zoom in there. Visualize that color behind the lids of your eyes. Or maybe allow the movement of your breath to be an anchor for your practice. You can follow your breath with your mind. And it's okay, remembering meditation is not a blank mind or a still mind, so it's okay if the mind is wandering a little bit. I only ask as an invitation to notice that if it does wander, where do you go into judgment or criticism with the musings of your mind? Just 1 minute left on this first side. Notice any tendencies to fidget or wiggle. Really give yourself permission to sit with the sensation, with an intensity of sensation. So the edge, there can be an intensity to it. Of course, if there's anything sharp or shooting, you want to support your body, ease out or ease off. However, having sensation and having something be challenging or having something be intense is a natural part of life. So notice your responses towards sitting with intensity. And take 3 more breaths right as you are. And with your inhale, if you're still down in that sleeping variation close to the earth, slowly walk up. You can kind of cat paw your hands up. Tuck your left toes under behind you. You can scoop your knee in. Slide your right knee back toward meeting your left. And then bring your knees out wide. Make sure that they're cushioned either by your mat, or you can fold your blanket if you'd like it a little bit wider. But take your knees wide and touch your toes together behind you for tadpole pose. And then go ahead and slide your sits bones back towards your heels. You want your knees wide enough that there's some sensation on the inner line of your hip. This is going to be kind of a warm-up or preparatory yin pose for the next level, similar shape that we'll take coming up here soon. So go ahead and wiggle your knees out wide and fold forward. So it's like a close cousin to child's pose. Fold your body forward, bring your forehead down toward the earth. We'll settle in towards stillness, towards softness for 3 minutes here, tadpole pose. You can scan the length of your body. Soften your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, your palms so that they can make a very graceful and soft connection with the earth without any sort of holding on or holding back, or any sort of unconscious activation. And then take that same scan in your lower body, hips, knees, and ankles. Where can you soften just a hair more? Give yourself more freely to the support of the earth that's beneath you. It will catch you. It is strong enough to hold you. Give yourself up to the earth and breathe. Notice where your mind wants to go in those silent spaces. And again, notice non-judgmentally. This is all just really ripe and fertile ground for svadhyaya, for self-study, and for observation. So can you watch yourself, and rather than jump into criticism or judgment, just think, that's interesting. Look where my mind wants to go. Isn't that interesting? So approach yourself with an open and accepting curiosity. Last minute here. Soften your breath. And take a nice, soft 3 rounds more. Without force, without hurry, and stay deeply present with those last 3 breaths. And with your next inhale, you can slide your gaze forward. Send your arms out, press into the palms of your hands, root into each knuckle, and with a round back, lift your weight forward. Slide your knees in so that they stack right underneath your hips. You can round your back like a cat to lift through. And we're coming right into sleeping swan on the second side. So slide your left knee up between both thumbs. Remember, you can keep quite a narrow angle of that bend from hip to knee to ankle on the left side. Keep your right toes tucked under. Slide your right knee back in space. Untuck your toes. So remember, you can support underneath your left hip, particularly if you're kind of falling down onto one side. Support with a blanket, a block, a book, whatever you have handy. And then once you're steady there, you can walk down onto your forearms. So remember, it's a 4-minute journey here. A 4-minute journey into yourself and through yourself. You can rest on forearms. Gaze can be slightly lifted and soft, or your head can be heavy. If it's working for your body in this moment, perhaps walk all the way down, perhaps even rest your forehead onto the earth. So this one's really handy for making a deep, deep connection with the earth element. The red of the root chakra, home of our sense of stability, our ability to root to ground, to be steady and steadfast, and to have a sense of home and family and culture. And so for some folks, that comes from upbringing and from family unit, and for others, that comes from chosen family, chosen units, cultures, collectives. Remember, you can tie into the red of the root chakra or the orange of the sacral chakra as we get into work with the hip lines here. Also calling in balance for Savasana, the sacral chakra, ruled by the element of water, the color of orange. And this is where we hold our sense of guilt. And so often we can feel guilty when we participate in that which brings us pleasure, particularly if it's anything sensual or sexual. And even sometimes when it's just simply fun or a creative project, we really can feel guilty, like we need to be all business or there's no space for fun, right? Too busy surviving. So this is kind of the demon of that sacral area. Just a little over 1 minute left on this side. Soften into your breath. Lean into a space of stillness and silence. And take 3 more full rounds of breath. And again, I would invite you to take those rounds slow and unhurried. So you can stay really fully present in this shape. As you come to your next inhale, press again into your palms, root your knuckles, walk up towards stacking your arm bones. You can tuck your right toes under behind you, slide your knee in just slightly, and then wiggle your left knee back to meet your right. Take a seat down onto your heels. Okay, so for this next one, I really recommend taking either 2 blankets, one for each knee, or you can take 1 blanket and find a really nice long roll or fold for it so that both knees can be supported onto the cushion of your blanket. And I'm going to come lengthwise on my mat for some extra cushion here. We're moving into Yin's Mandukasana or frog pose. So spin around the long way on your mat, and you'll have the option to take a repeat of Tadpole posture if that one's going to work better in your body. So that's the one we did last time around that I said was a prep for a later pose. So this is the pose you can either kind of work up into or keep it with Tadpole pose for today. Another option once you come down will be to land onto your bolster or pillow just in front of you. You can also even make a little bridge with it by stacking blocks or books underneath your bolster to lift that support up to you. So your options are this for the lower body. Knees nice and wide and the tips of the big toes touching together behind you. So that's the Tadpole base. For those that want to work into the frog option today, keep your knees wide and swing your feet. Swing your feet out wide. Make sure you're resting onto the big toe edges. Some folks have their hips all the way down to the earth on this option, and you might stay here with arm bones stacked. Otherwise, remember you can take your bolster in front of you and come all the way down with support onto the earth. We'll do 3 minutes here in frog pose. This one's going to be quite intense for the inner line of your hips, really working deep into sacral chakra, Savasana. If you're feeling any sort of sharpness or intensity on the inside line of your knees or ankles, please check the cushion of your blanket, your mat. Make sure you have what you need. So yin is already an intense enough practice without throwing ourselves additional hurdles or challenges. The practice is going to start to soften out really shortly here. We'll close up the practice with some restorative shapes, which will be much more neutral and supportive for the connective tissue. So really lean into this opportunity to observe yourself in a space of intensity and in a space of silence. Just barely over 1 minute left to go. And take one more nice, solid, unhurried breath. Okay, so slowly start drawing your hands back until they can land beneath your shoulders. And before pressing your upper body up, draw your big toes together behind you. So if you're not already in that tadpole shape with your lower body, find that first, and then begin to press against the earth to take a slow lift back with your upper body. Once you're there, you can tuck your toes under, draw your knees a bit closer to one another, and once again, sit back onto your heels. So again, transition very, very slowly in the yin practice. So so that we're not adding additional strain to these really, really deeply stretched connective tissues. Go ahead and slide your hips down to one side and bring both feet all the way around to the front. I'm going to keep my folded blanket right underneath my hips for this next one. And since we just did a shape that is so deeply intense for the inner hips, we're going to go ahead and address the other side of that with shoelace pose. So you can grab your blocks if you know that you like those to support the weight of your head. Wrap your right leg atop your left and work to bring your knees toward a stack in the middle. You can have your feet to either side. Sometimes I like to press into my feet, give a little lift and a wiggle down to settle in better. You may also extend your left leg underneath you, extend your left leg straight for a half shoelace variation. And this is going to look quite different on every different body. So it might be a little bit more like this, a little bit of a looser shoelace, right? So you take the variation that's going to fit your form today. And then option to keep the seat nice and high. You can rest here. If you can really tap into space for silence, for contemplation, for meditation here, then hold that. That's beautiful. We'll be on a 3-minute journey here. If you prefer to take a folded variation, soften your belly, allow your back to round, and fold your weight forward. This is where maybe your blocks come in handy. So you can take one block or stack your blocks up, maybe a couple. Rest your forehead onto the blocks in front of you. Find a surrendered and open, receptive gesture with your hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders. Notice any form of unconscious activation in your body. Where are you efforting where it may not be required? This constant overexertion. So where can you allow yourself to be both strong and also supple and soft? This is the power of water. The element of the sacral chakra. It's soft, it's graceful, it flows, and also it has this strength and power to it as well. So right now, we don't need to be strong and overpowering. We need to be soft and graceful and surrendered. Just about 1 minute to go on this first side. And take 3 more solid but also soft cycles of breath. And as you're ready, you can flip your palms to face down. Leave your head nice and heavy and lift from the back side of your heart. Take a slow reverse roll all the way up toward a seat. No hurry or rush to get there. Come on back to center. So let's swap over to the other side. You can use your hands, maybe between sides. You want to take a little bit of a windshield wiper to soften some of the intensity you might feel in your joints. This yin practice can be quite rich in sensation. And then go ahead and come back towards center. This time around, wrap your left leg atop your right. And notice if you're really fixated on having both sides be the same or really symmetrical with hips and shoulders. We can really notice big differences between one side and the other. So really offer yourself a gentleness if you notice that. So remember, you can press into your feet, take a lift and wiggle back down. You can prop up hips a little bit more with your blanket or even a block. You also might want your blocks in front of you to catch the weight of your head, perhaps stacked or just one. Will be 3 full minutes here. So yogi's choice, you can pause in a nice tall seat. If you already feel like there's plenty of sensation going on in the lower body, then the work is to remember to sit with all that is. If there's already a lot or enough going on, then pause. Enough is enough. Sit with it. And of course, if you'd like to adjust or assist or support that sensation in any different way, you also have the option to fold forward. So remember, in yin, soft belly, rounded spine, come forward onto your stack of blocks or your block. Allow your palms to open up. We're already almost 1 minute in. So wherever you're at, get really soft and surrendered and really deeply present, still and silent. Again, notice all the parts of you, all the contact you make with the earth and how that earth comes up and into you. It supports you. It holds your weight. It meets you where you're at with a steadiness. Just over 1 minute left here. So you can kind of reassess and soften or deepen the edge if that's what your body is requiring or requesting. And then drop back in. A steadiness in the mind. A steadiness in your body. And take 3 more deeply present breaths, exactly as you are, without changing anything. And into your next inhalation, flip your wrists so your palms press you into the earth. And again, I would invite you to lead from the back side of your heart, that space right between your shoulder blades or scapulas. Slow lift up, let your head be the last to rise, and you land back at center. You can untangle your lower body, press flat into the soles of your feet, take your feet out about hips width distance apart, and again, take a little waggle or wave from side to side. So we're going to begin to soften out the practice a bit now as we get into a more restorative portion. to really soften the body, the mind, the breath before Shavasana. So the next time your legs draw down toward the right, you can leave both of your knees there, but slide your left knee back so that the right foot can come toward landing into the top of your left thigh. This is a great spot for a pillow or a bolster. Bring it to extend off of your right hip, just beside you, off of your right hip. And then go ahead and swivel your upper body around. You can frame your bolster or your pillow with both hands and walk your body down to rest onto it for deer pose. You can rest onto your right ear. So we will not be doing the extra super duper long, extended, luxurious, restorative poses that you may have been able to receive in the past, but we will be here for about 3 full minutes. So really allow yourself to give yourself up fully into all of the support. You have pillows or bolsters, maybe blankets. You have the steadiness and sturdiness of the earth beneath you. And in these last 2 shapes, there's really not going to be pull or intensity for the connective tissue. So if that does not feel like your experience, if this feels like it has an intensity or a pull to it, then really, really stack yourself up, prop yourself up, get yourself cozy and neutral. So that might mean maybe you bring your left knee forward or your right knee back and really find what is softest and most precious for your experience. And then give yourself to it fully. This is another really beautiful one for lots and lots of contact with the earth. In these last few moments, you might want to anchor your mind, view the colors of the 2 lowest chakras behind the lids of your eyes, the color red that most stood out to you, the color orange that came to you as most closely representing your sacral chakra. Maybe simply focusing on the movement of your breath. Take 3 more unrushed rounds of your breath, of your natural breath. And as you're ready, press into the earth. Let the earth support you. Allow your head to stay heavy. Lift your way without force or hurry back to center. You can take a pause for a breath to reset. Invite your left shin around toward the front. We'll transfer over to the opposite side, the second side. So both knees land down towards your left. Left foot is going to connect into the top of your right thigh, at least initially. Remember, you can always adjust to find the deepest comfort for your practice. And then extend the bolster out off of your left hip. in the opposite direction. So remember, you're going to swivel your upper body around. So there's a subtle twist in the upper body, and then go ahead and come down, rest your left ear so that your gaze stays facing forward. And there'll be 3 full minutes here on the second side. Your arms might be extended fully out, or maybe one hand landing just beyond the tip of your nose or your chin. Find what will be the most subtle, soft, supportive for your joints and for your whole body. And then scan your system from the soles of your feet, the home of the root chakra, your ankles, your toes, your shins, your calves, your knees, your upper legs, your thighs, quadriceps, hamstrings. Notice anywhere there that you can soften and surrender. Anything that might be in a habitual holding. And then bring that awareness up toward sacral chakra, Svadhisthana region, hips, inner and outer, pelvis. It's also thighs, low back, sacrum, lumbar. Your sexual organs. Notice any pattern there of holding, habitual activation or clenching. Where can you get soft? Just about 3 more breaths here. And once again, invite yourself slowly back to center without rushing and without force. You can bring your right foot back around toward the front as we prepare for our last, more restorative pose. Bring your bolster behind you and have your 2 blocks or your stack of books handy. You may like to have your blanket to cushion your sacrum as an option, or to have nearby to use as a pillow or a little roll underneath cervical spine. So you can bring your low back just to the bolster, bring your feet together at mid-mat and let your knees drop out wide as in a Baddha Konasana. We'll take a reclined variation, reclined butterfly. And so since we want this to be more restorative in nature, please take your books or blocks underneath your outer knees so that there's not the intensity of sensation for inner hip and inner thigh. And then go ahead and slowly rest back onto the support of your pillow or bolster. As well, if you land here and you feel like there's a little bit of strain or there's an efforting of some sort for the neck spine, remember you have the option to take your blanket behind you. This is an option I quite like. You can take a little roll to support your cervical spine so that everything's nice and neutral and soft, and then rest your arms alongside your ribs. Open your palms upward as long as that feels comfortable for you. And we'll drop in here for 4 full minutes. Really get soft and silent, and notice all of the ways in which you are supported. As we draw near to the end of the practice, I like to open up a lot more space for silence so that you might dive in more deeply to your own personal inner experience without being guided where to go. Allow your own body and your own mind and your own breath and your own inner knowing to really be the guides for the rest of this journey. Just over a minute and a half left here. If you haven't already, perhaps scan your system once again and find any open spaces that will allow for deeper softening. And take 3 more breaths. As you're ready with your hands, you can come to support your outer hips. Wiggle onto the soles of your feet and press your knees both back up toward midline where they can connect. Once your knees connect, heel toe step your feet out a little bit wider like a constructive rest for just a few breaths. And then tuck your chin in towards your collarbones. Support with your hands to either side of your body. Slow press up towards seated, only long enough to slide your equipment out from underneath you and prepare to come down for Savasana. So again, if you like the rolled blanket for support of your cervical spine, keep that nearby. For anyone that likes a bolster or pillow underneath their knees, situate that. Can be good if your low back requires a little bit of extra support. And then go ahead and rest all the way down to the earth. Open your palms upward to the sky. Before you settle in and surrender completely, bring your hands to any point along your hips, outer, inner, tops of your thighs. Connect in one last time with root chakra. Notice any sensation in your feet. Maybe wiggle your toes and ankles one last time. And thank this sacred center for all that it does for you to work toward feelings of security, of safety, of steadiness, of being grounded and rooted, and for all the ways that this center reminds you of your connection to Earth. And then walk your hands up toward your lower belly, or maybe toward the bony landmarks of your pelvis. To connect for just one last moment in appreciation towards Svadhisthana, sacral chakra, and for all of the ways this sacred, energetic, and emotional center strives to allow for a relationship to play and to creativity, and to sensuality and sexuality, and to exploring what is fun and what really feeds you once your survival needs are met. And all of the ways that this creative flow supports you in your relationship to the element of water. And when that feels complete, allow your arms to extend alongside your body, palms open upward to the sky for a final few minutes. Complete rest. Return to wholeness. Integrate in Savasana. Begin to gently shift the movement of your breath into something that is very subtly more awakening and invigorating. So a bigger, broader breath. You can trace the tips of your fingers with your thumb. Maybe spread your toes, point or flex your feet, or rock your head from side to side. And all of this is going to be done with no hurry, in the most gentle and loving way possible. You might even want to reach your arms up and back overhead and take a stretch that runs the whole length of your body, from the tips of your toes up through your fingers, spreading wide. And when you're ready, draw both of your knees in towards your heart. Give yourself a sweet squeeze there. And then roll over onto your favorite side and take a couple breaths. Press yourself up with lots of love and deep intention and attention. Come all the way up to a last seat that is comfortable, where you can seal the practice together. And as you're ready, fold your hands together at your heart into Anjali Mudra, this gesture that is a seal of reverence, of gratitude. And allow your head to rest low towards your heart. Honor these sacred spaces, Muladhara, Swadhisthana. Honor the stillness and the challenges that this practice provided. And I thank and honor each one of you deeply. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining, yogis and yoginis. Have a beautiful day or a beautiful evening ahead, and I'll see you again very soon. Be well.